After 5 years of saving every dollar, I finally opened my own restaurant and invited my whole family to the grand opening. Instead of showing up, they chose to go to my sister's party. I was locking up by myself that night when my phone buzzed. It was my dad. "Before you get upset, we actually need you." Oh, you know that feeling? That absolute gut-wrenching moment when you pour your entire soul into something, dreaming of celebrating it with the people who are supposed to love you most, only for them to absolutely shatter your world with a casual dismissal? Yeah, I lived that. And what happened next? Well, let's just say it taught me a brutal truth about family, and the power of finding your own tribe. So, picture this, my grand opening. 5 years. 5 long years of working double shifts, sleeping 4 hours a night, wearing the same 3 outfits, pouring every single spare penny into this dream. My dream. My restaurant, Sage and Thyme. I'd circled this day on my calendar 1,626 times. I even had 12 bottles of champagne chilling on the bar, one for each member of my family, plus extras for the friends I just knew they'd bring. My mom had helped me pick out this gorgeous deep emerald dress, the kind you wear when your dreams are finally coming true. But the restaurant? It was empty. Just me, and Marcus, my amazing sous chef, who kept glancing at his phone then at me with those soft, sympathetic eyes I'd grown to despise over the last 3 hours. "They're probably just running late," he offered, wiping down the same pristine section of counter for the 4th time. I just stared at him. What could I even say? That my entire family had confirmed? That my sister, Jessica, had texted me yesterday with "can't wait for tomorrow. So proud of you, sis?" My phone buzzed. I grabbed it so fast I nearly knocked over a champagne bottle. Finally, then I read it. "Dad, before you get mad, we need you to understand something." My stomach dropped like a stone. The dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I watched them dance for what felt like an eternity. "Dad, Jessica's engagement party got moved to today last minute. The venue had a cancellation. We're all here at the Riverside Inn. You should come celebrate with us when you close up. She's family, too." I read it 3 times. Then a 4th. The words didn't change. Marcus had stopped pretending to clean. He was just openly staring. "Everything okay?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "They're not coming," I heard myself say. My voice sounded strange, hollow, like it belonged to someone else. "Any of them?" He started to say something, but I just held up my hand. I needed silence. I needed to think. But thinking felt impossible. Rage was filling my chest like hot tar, thick and suffocating. More texts rolled in. "Mom, sweetie, we'll come by tomorrow for lunch. Save us a table." The same 3 hearts Jessica used. "My brother Tyler, dude, sorry." Jessica pulled a family card. "You get it. Congrats, though." My Aunt Linda, who I'd personally called twice this week to confirm, Jessica's party was lovely. She's glowing. "When did you say your thing was again?" My thing. My 5-year dream. My thing. Then the kitchen timers I'd set for the appetizers started beeping. A symphony of wasted effort. I'd prepared enough food for 40 people. Crab cakes with homemade remoulade. Prosciutto-wrapped asparagus with balsamic reduction. Tiny caprese skewers that took me 2 hours to assemble because I wanted every single one to look perfect. Beef Wellington bites that required a precision I'd practiced for weeks. "Want me to start packing this up?" Marcus asked gently. "No," I said, and even I was surprised by the firmness in my voice. "Call everyone you know. Tell them there's free food and drinks at Sage and Thyme for the next 2 hours. Friends, family, neighbors, that guy who always asks you for cigarettes outside the subway. Everyone." Marcus grinned. "Now we're talking." Within 30 minutes, the restaurant filled. Not with my family, but with strangers who became the best guests I could have asked for. Marcus's girlfriend brought her book club. The elderly couple from the flower shop next door shuffled in with their grandson. A group of college students hooped when they heard free champagne and proceeded to take photos in front of every dish like it was the Met Gala. A woman named Patricia, who owned the vintage clothing store 2 blocks over, cornered me by the kitchen. "This crab cake is insane. Are you hiring? My nephew just graduated culinary school. Tell him to bring his resume Monday," I said, meaning it. The food disappeared. The champagne bottles emptied. Someone put on the jazz playlist I'd spent weeks curating. People laughed and talked and told me this place was going to be the next big thing. And for those 2 hours, I almost forgot about the family-sized hole in my chest. Almost. After everyone left, and Marcus insisted on staying to help me clean, I finally sat down at the bar with my phone. The family group chat was exploding with photos from Jessica's engagement party. Pictures of the Riverside Inn's perfectly manicured garden, close-ups of her ring, a massive emerald-cut diamond that probably cost more than my entire restaurant deposit. Videos of her and Brad slow dancing while everyone circled them like she was royalty. Then I saw it. A photo posted by my younger cousin, Emma, who I'd always thought was the honest one. The timestamp, 2:47 p.m. exactly when my grand opening had started. The caption read, "When the whole fam comes through for Jess, best engagement party ever. Family love wins." The whole fam including my parents, who I could see clearly in the background, raising champagne flutes. The same parents who raised me on sayings like, "Blood is thicker than water," and "always show up for family." Apparently, there were levels to family loyalty. And I'd just discovered which one I occupied. I drove home in silence, still in my emerald dress, my makeup smudged from the kitchen heat and the unshed tears I refused to let fall in front of Marcus. My apartment felt small after the restaurant. I'd barely been home lately, spending every spare moment at Sage and Time. Sleep didn't come. Instead, I lay in bed, replaying every family dinner, every holiday, every moment I'd accommodated Jessica. When she needed someone to dog-sit for 2 weeks while she went to Bali, I did it, even though I'm allergic and had to take antihistamines the entire time. When she borrowed my car and returned it with an empty tank and a mysterious scratch, I let it go. When she forgot my birthday 3 years in a row, but I never missed hers, making excuses for her busy schedule. The pattern had always been there. I just convinced myself it was normal family dynamics. Sunday morning arrived with a flurry of texts asking when I'd be joining them for the day after brunch at Jessica's future in-laws' house. As if I'd been at the party yesterday. As if my absence from their celebration was just an oversight that could be smoothed over with mimosas. I didn't respond. Instead, I went to the restaurant and prepped for Monday's soft launch. Real customers. Paying customers. People who chose to be there. The lunch rush exceeded my expectations. Every table filled. The Yelp reviews started rolling in, 4 and 5 stars, praising the food, the ambience, the attention to detail. Patricia from the vintage shop came back with 3 friends. The college students from Saturday returned with their parents, who made reservations for the following week. Tuesday brought a catering inquiry. Wednesday, a food blogger asked to interview me. By Thursday, we had a waiting list for Friday night. My phone continued its steady stream of family messages. Dad asking if I was done being dramatic. Mom saying I was creating unnecessary tension. Tyler sending me articles about forgiveness and moving on. Jessica herself finally texted, "Can't believe you're making my engagement about you. Grow up, Ida." I blocked the family group chat. Then I blocked each of them individually. The silence felt like oxygen after being suffocated. 3 weeks into Sage and Time's operation, a restaurant critic from the city's most respected food magazine came in anonymously. Marcus recognized her from her Instagram and nearly had a panic attack, but the meal went perfectly. Her review published the following Tuesday with a headline, "Sage and Time, the neighborhood gem that deserves citywide recognition." The reservation book filled for 6 weeks out. I hired 2 more line cooks, another server, a full-time bartender. My accountant called to say I should start thinking about expansion plans. Expansion plans? A month ago, I'd just hoped to survive the first quarter. One evening, while I was doing inventory in the walk-in cooler, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Ida, it's Brad. Jessica's fiancé. I didn't respond, just waited. Look, I know things are weird with your family right now, but Jessica really wants you at the wedding. She's been crying about it all week. Can you guys just talk? Did she ask you to call me? A pause. She doesn't know I'm calling, but I see how upset she gets. You're her sister. Tell Jessica if she wants to talk to me, she knows how to use a phone. And she also knows where my restaurant is. I'm here 6 days a week. I hung up. The wedding invitation arrived via certified mail 2 days later, like they were worried I'd claim I never got it. A formal cream envelope with calligraphy so elaborate I could barely read my own name. The wedding was scheduled for 3 months out, at some vineyard in Napa Valley. The invitation included a separate card. I'd been assigned a seat at table 17. From Jessica's previous wedding discussions, I knew that was where they put obligation invites, distant cousins and parents' work colleagues. Her maid of honor was her college roommate. Her bridesmaids were her sorority sisters. Not one spot for the sister who'd shared a bedroom with her for 16 years. I RSVP'd no and returned the card without a personal note. Mom called from Dad's phone, probably assuming I wouldn't pick up from her number. I answered on speaker, plating a special for table 6. Ida Elizabeth Morrison. What is wrong with you? You're declining your own sister's wedding. Her voice was shrill, strained. I have a restaurant to run. For one day, you can't close? Why would I close my business to attend an event for people who couldn't spare 3 hours for mine? Silence. Ida, that's different. Jessica's engagement party was last minute. You know that. It was scheduled 3 weeks in advance. I saw the venue contract date on Facebook. Jessica just didn't bother telling anyone until the day of because she knew if she gave notice, some people might choose my event instead. More silence. Muffled conversation. She was covering the phone, talking to Dad. Your father wants to talk to you. I don't want to talk to him. I hung up and blocked Dad's number too. The thing about cutting out your entire family is that it leaves a lot of empty space. I filled it. With the restaurant. With perfecting new menu items. With building relationships with my staff and regular customers. Marcus became not just my sous chef, but a genuine friend. His girlfriend, Tanya, started helping with social media marketing. The college students, David, Sophie, and Martinez, came in every Friday, bringing different friend groups. Patricia introduced me to her book club, and suddenly I had a standing monthly reservation for 12 women who drank wine, debated literature, and always ordered dessert. They adopted me, in a way. Asked about my life. Celebrated when we got good reviews. Brought me flowers when I mentioned offhand that I'd always loved peonies but never bought them for myself. These people. These strangers who became constants. They showed up more than my family ever had. 2 months after opening, I received an email from a television production company. They were casting for a new cooking competition show, and someone had nominated me. Would I be interested? I took the call during my day off, sitting in my apartment, which I'd finally had time to decorate properly. The producer, a fast-talking woman named Angela, explained the concept. Your story is compelling, she said. Self-made. Restaurant critical success. Strong local following. The network loves a good underdog narrative. I'm not really an underdog anymore, I almost laughed. Even better. You're proof that hard work pays off. Very American dream. The American dream achieved by cutting out the people who were supposed to support it. The preliminary interview led to a callback. The callback led to a screen test. The screen test led to a contract offer and a filming schedule that would require me to close Sage in time for 3 weeks while we shot in Los Angeles. Marcus agreed to manage the restaurant. Tanya would handle social media. The day before I flew out, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Ida, it's Emma. I know you blocked everyone, but I got a new phone. Please don't block this one. I need to tell you something." I stared at it for a long moment, then typed, "What?" "Mom and Dad are telling everyone you had a breakdown and cut off the family because you couldn't handle Jessica's success. They're saying you need professional help. Jessica's going along with it. I thought you should know." The audacity shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. A breakdown, of course. It couldn't be that they'd showed their true priorities. It had to be that something was wrong with me. "Thanks for telling me," I replied. "But I'm fine. Better than fine, actually." "I know. I follow your restaurant on Instagram. It looks amazing. I'm sorry I didn't come to the opening. I should have chosen differently. You were 17. Don't apologize for other people's choices. I'm 18 now, old enough to make my own decisions. Can I come visit sometime? I want to try the food." I sent her the reservation link. Emma came in the following Saturday with her girlfriend, Veronica. They ordered half the menu, took pictures of everything, and Emma cried a little when she tasted the braised short ribs. She said they reminded her of Sunday dinners before everything got complicated. "Do you miss them?" she asked, pushing her fork through her panna cotta. I considered the question honestly. I miss the idea of them. The family I thought I had. But the reality? No. I don't miss being an afterthought. I don't miss adjusting my expectations downward every time they proved who they were. I don't miss performing gratitude for the bare minimum. Veronica, who'd been quiet, spoke up. "My therapist says, sometimes the most radical thing we can do is refuse to accept unacceptable behavior, even from family. Especially from family." "Smart therapist," I said. The weeks that followed brought an unexpected rhythm. Mornings started at 4:30. Chopping vegetables in the quiet kitchen. No family drama. No texts asking me to explain my feelings or justify my boundaries. Just me, my ingredients, and the work I loved. My Instagram following grew. Food enthusiasts, locals who'd become invested in Sage in time. Then Tyler found my account. My brother. He started leaving passive-aggressive comments on every post. "Looks great. Wish family could have been part of this journey. Mom would love this dish if you ever let her try it." Each comment got a few likes from relatives I'd forgotten were still watching. I deleted them and blocked him there, too. Marcus found me clenching my jaw, scrolling through my phone. "Family?" he guessed. Tyler's discovered social media stalking. I set my phone down harder than necessary. It's like they can't just let me exist in peace. They need me to know they're watching, judging, waiting for me to fail or come crawling back. "You could make the account private," he offered. Why should I hide my success because they can't handle it? The frustration bubbled up, sharp and hot. This is my space. My accomplishment. They don't get to colonize this, too. Tanya overheard from the reservation system. "Want me to handle your social media? I can filter comments, block accounts. You focus on cooking. Let me deal with the digital nonsense." It was a perfect solution. Tanya had a gift for witty, professional responses and a ruthless efficiency at removing anything that smelled like family manipulation. The Food Critics Review brought not just customers, but attention from culinary schools. Johnson and Wales wanted me to speak to their graduating class. The International Culinary Center invited me to do a demonstration. These were opportunities I'd fantasized about during those 5 years of saving. The first speaking engagement terrified me more than opening night. 40 culinary students stared at me expectantly. I'd planned to talk about business planning and menu development. Instead, I found myself being brutally honest. The hardest part of opening Sage and Time wasn't the finances or the permits or the long hours, I told them. It was accepting that the people I expected to celebrate with me weren't going to show up. And then learning that was okay. That success tastes just as sweet, maybe sweeter, when it's earned on your own terms, and shared with people who genuinely want to be there. The applause felt different than the polite clapping I'd anticipated. Afterward, students approached me with their own stories of family members who didn't understand their culinary ambitions. I gave them my card. One quiet girl named Ashley, with precise knife skills, asked if I was hiring. She started the following month and became one of my most reliable prep cooks. The show filmed in October. 3 weeks of intense competition. I made it to the final 4 before being eliminated in a dessert round, my weakest category. Marcus had stepped up beautifully, running Sage and Time with military precision. Ashley had thrived under the pressure. When I finally returned, exhausted but energized, the restaurant had not only survived, but had maintained its stellar reputation. And the exposure from the show was incredible. The episodes aired in January, and suddenly, Sage and Time wasn't just a neighborhood gem, but a destination restaurant. Food tourists came from across the state. The waiting list stretched to 3 months. I had to hire more staff and implement a reservation lottery system. A restaurant group from San Francisco reached out about franchising. A publisher asked if I'd be interested in writing a cookbook. 2 different investors wanted to discuss opening a second location. The success felt surreal, and also perfectly logical. The natural result of years of work finally being recognized. Jessica's wedding came and went. I saw photos on social media from people I hadn't blocked. It looked beautiful. The vineyard was stunning. The flowers were perfect. Jessica was radiant in a dress that probably cost more than my commercial oven. I felt nothing looking at the pictures. Not anger, not sadness. Just a distant acknowledgement that this was a thing that had happened to people I used to know. What I didn't expect was the aftermath. My absence had been noted and discussed extensively. Emma texted me details I hadn't asked for, how Mom had made a tearful speech about hoping her daughters would reconcile. How Dad had gotten drunk and told anyone who would listen that I'd always been stubborn and difficult. How Jessica had played the victim beautifully, dabbing at her eyes while explaining that she'd tried everything to repair our relationship. The narrative they constructed painted me as the villain. The ungrateful daughter. The jealous sister. The family member who'd chosen pride over love. Let them think what they wanted. I was busy building something real. But the Whisper campaign had consequences I hadn't anticipated. Distant family members started leaving negative reviews on Yelp and Google. Overpriced for what you get. Owner seems cold and unfriendly. Better restaurants in the area with owners who value family. Tanya caught them early and flagged them as suspicious. Most got removed, but a few stuck. Each one felt like a small paper cut, individually insignificant, but collectively painful. Marcus found me in the walk-in cooler one evening, sitting on an overturned crate, staring at nothing. Taking a break from reality, he asked gently, closing the door behind him. "Did you see the review that went up today? The one that said I'm probably difficult to work with based on personal family knowledge?" "I saw it. Tanya's already reporting it. It'll be down by tomorrow." He sat down on a case of wine bottles. "You know what my mom told me when I decided to leave my banking job to cook? She said I was throwing away my future for a pipe dream. Said I'd come crawling back within a year. That was 8 years ago. She still introduces me as her son who used to work in finance." He looked me straight in the eye. "Does it still hurt sometimes?" "Yeah. But then I come here and make something beautiful and people pay money to eat it, and I remember that their limitations aren't mine. Your family's inability to see your worth doesn't diminish it. It just reveals their poverty of vision." The pep talk helped, but the reviews kept coming sporadically. Each one felt like they were trying to sabotage the thing I built. The success they couldn't stand to see me have. I started documenting them, building a file. Then Patricia walked in during a quiet Tuesday lunch service with a proposal. My nephew, the one I told you about? He's a wizard with reputation management and digital marketing. He helped a friend's bakery recover from a similar attack. Can I have him give you a call? His name was Derek, and he worked fast. Within a week, he'd gotten the fake reviews removed and implemented a system that flagged suspicious activity and encouraged genuine customers to share their experiences. Your restaurant has a great story, Derek told me. Young chef, self-made success, community favorite. That's the narrative that should dominate, not whatever petty family drama someone's trying to push. He was right. The restaurant's reputation not only recovered but strengthened. The attempted sabotage had backfired spectacularly. 3 days after the wedding, Mom showed up at the restaurant. I was in the kitchen when Marcus came back, looking uncomfortable. Your mom's here, he said quietly. She doesn't have a reservation, but she's asking to speak with you. Tell her we're fully booked. And if she'd like to make a reservation, she can do so online like everyone else. He nodded slowly and left. 5 minutes later, he returned. She says she'll wait. She's sitting at the bar. I continued prepping the salmon for table 8, my movements precise and controlled. How long until the last reservation is seated? I asked. 90 minutes. Then she can wait 90 minutes. She did. I watched her periodically through the kitchen window, nursing a single glass of wine that Tanya had served her with professional detachment. Mom looked older than I remembered. Or maybe I'd just gotten used to not seeing her face tightened with disappointment when she looked at me. After the last order went out and the kitchen was clean, I finally walked out to the bar. Mom straightened up like she'd been rehearsing a speech. Can we talk? She asked, in private. Anything you need to say, you can say here. Her mouth tightened. Fine. Jessica's marriage is struggling. Brad's been distant since the wedding. She needs family support right now, and you're being selfish. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. Let me get this straight. You came to my restaurant, waited 90 minutes, to tell me that Jessica, who couldn't be bothered to spend 3 hours at my grand opening, needs me to support her marriage that's apparently falling apart after 3 months. You're her sister, and she's mine? Funny how that only seems to matter when she needs something. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Real or performative, I no longer cared to determine. When did you become so cold? The same day I opened my restaurant to an empty room and realized my family had chosen a party over a milestone 5 years in the making. That's when I became clear-eyed, Mom. Not cold. Clear. We made a mistake. We've apologized. No, you haven't. Not once. You've made excuses, minimized, told me to get over it, accused me of having a breakdown. But you've never actually said, we were wrong. We hurt you. We're sorry. Because you don't think you were wrong. She stood up, fumbling for her purse. I won't stand here and be attacked. Then leave. You're good at that. She did. The door didn't even slam. She closed it with controlled precision, which somehow felt worse. Tanya, who'd been wiping down the other end of the bar, came over and squeezed my shoulder. You okay, boss? Yeah, I said, surprised to find it was true. I really am. Spring arrived with a burst of reservations from wedding parties looking for rehearsal dinner venues. Emma started bringing Veronica to the restaurant twice a month. They'd become my only connection to the family, and even that was filtered. Emma knew not to share details unless I asked, which I rarely did. One evening, she mentioned almost casually, Jessica's getting divorced. I looked up from the menu I was revising. That was fast. Brad caught her texting her ex-boyfriend. Apparently, it had been going on since before the engagement. He moved out last week. I'm sorry to hear that, I said automatically. Are you? I thought about it. I'm sorry anyone has to go through a divorce, but I'm not sorry for Jessica specifically, if that's what you're asking. She made her choices. Mom thinks you should reach out. Be the bigger person. Mom can think whatever she wants. Emma grinned. That's what I told her you'd say. Veronica owes me $20. The summer brought a James Beard Foundation nomination for Best New Restaurant. I didn't win, but being nominated felt like validation from the culinary world that what I'd built mattered. We were profitable. We were respected. We were happy. That's when Dad showed up. Unlike Mom, he didn't wait at the bar. He walked straight into the kitchen during Friday dinner rush, despite Marcus trying to stop him, and planted himself in my line of sight while I was plating a duck breast. We need to talk, he announced. I'm working. Make a reservation. I didn't look up, focused on getting the presentation perfect. This can't wait. Your mother's in the hospital. My hand stilled. What happened? Stress-induced heart palpitations. The doctor says she needs to reduce stress. This situation with you is killing her, Ida. I set down my tweezers and met his eyes. If Mom is having health issues, she should see her doctor and follow their recommendations. What she shouldn't do is use her health to manipulate me into accepting unacceptable behavior from this family. Your sister's marriage fell apart. Your mother is sick. Don't you have any compassion? I have plenty of compassion. What I don't have is any obligation to set myself on fire to keep people warm who wouldn't walk across the street to help me put out the flames. That's not fair. You're in my kitchen during a dinner rush. You need to leave. Not until we settle this. I turned to Marcus. Call the police and tell them we have a trespasser who's refusing to leave private property. Dad's face went purple. I'm your father. And I'm asking you to leave my restaurant. Those two facts don't contradict each other. He left before Marcus could actually call anyone, but not before knocking over a container of prep sauce on his way out like a child throwing a tantrum. The kitchen was silent for a moment. Then Tanya started a slow clap, and the entire staff joined in. I shook my head, but couldn't help smiling. All right, all right. Tickets up. Let's get back to work. That evening, after service, I sat alone in the dining room with a glass of good wine, looking around at what I'd built. My phone buzzed. Emma. Grandma wants to meet, just you and her. She says she has something to tell you. Grandma Morrison? Yeah. She told Mom and Dad they were idiots and said she doesn't blame you for cutting them off. Her words, not mine. Interesting. Fine. Here, lunch Tuesday. Tell her to make a reservation online. Grandma showed up exactly on time. I seated her at my favorite corner table and brought her a glass of sweet tea without asking. You remembered, she said, surprised. I remember a lot of things, Grandma. She got straight to the point. Your parents raised you girls wrong. I told your mother that, but she didn't listen. She thought treating you the same meant everything had to be equal. But equal isn't the same as fair. Jessica needed more attention because she demanded it. You needed more attention because you deserved it. But you got leftover scraps while she got the full meal. I didn't know what to say. I should have said something sooner, Grandma continued. But I'm a coward in my old age. I didn't want to rock the boat. Turns out the boat needed rocking. She pulled an envelope from her purse. Your grandfather and I have been married 63 years. Before he passed, we talked about what we wanted our legacy to be. Money divided evenly, possessions distributed. But there was one thing we disagreed on. He wanted to leave the lake house to your mother. Neutral territory for family gatherings. I wanted to leave it to someone who'd actually appreciate it. Someone who worked for things instead of expecting them to appear. I won that argument. She slid the envelope across the table. Inside was a deed. The lake house. The beautiful 3-bedroom property in Michigan where I'd spent childhood summers was now in my name. Grandma, I can't, it's already done. Has been for 6 months. I'm just telling you now because I wanted to make sure you'd actually survived cutting them off before I burdened you with it. Property comes with responsibilities. Does Mom know? She will when I die and the will is read. Should be interesting. Grandma smiled wickedly. Now, are you going to feed me, or just stare? I hear the duck is exceptional. I cooked her the best meal I'd ever prepared. She ate every bite, complimented the technique, and left a $100 tip despite my protests. The lake house became my refuge on the restaurant's closed day each week. I'd drive up Monday mornings and spend the day cooking for myself, testing new recipes, sitting on the dock. Sometimes Emma and Veronica would join me. Sometimes Marcus and Tanya. Sometimes I went alone. It was there, on a particularly quiet Monday, that I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Ida, it's Jessica. I should have hung up. Instead, I said, how did you get this number? Emma. Look, I know you don't want to talk to me, but I need to say something and then I'll leave you alone. I stayed silent. I was jealous of you my whole life, she said finally. You were the smart one, the talented one, the one who didn't need constant validation. And instead of dealing with my insecurity, I made sure you always came second. The engagement party thing. I knew when your restaurant was opening. I moved my party to that day on purpose because I couldn't stand the idea of you succeeding without me being the center of attention. I processed this in silence. I don't expect forgiveness, she continued. I don't even deserve a response. But I needed you to know that it was never about you not being good enough. You were always better than me, and I hated it. Jessica, don't, please. I've said what I needed to say. Congratulations on everything. You earned it. She hung up before I could formulate a response. I sat on the dock for a long time after that call, watching the sun set. The admission didn't change anything. The hurt was still there. The pattern of behavior still real. But it did provide something I hadn't expected, closure. Understanding that her actions came from her own brokenness didn't excuse them. But it did free me from wondering what I'd done wrong. The answer was nothing. I'd done nothing wrong except exist as myself in a family that couldn't handle 2 daughters with different needs. That fall, the San Francisco restaurant group came back with an offer I couldn't refuse. They wanted to open 3 Sage and Time locations in California. I'd maintain creative control. They'd handle business operations. Marcus would run the original location. I'd oversee the new ones. It was ambitious, terrifying, and exactly what I wanted. The expansion announcement made local news. The restaurant filled with regulars wanting to congratulate me. Patricia's book club threw me a surprise party. Emma cried happy tears and said Veronica's parents wanted to invest. My phone stayed silent from the family I'd left behind, and I was grateful. They'd made their choice. I'd made mine. The silence was its own kind of peace. Opening night of the San Francisco location, I stood in a kitchen 3 times the size of my original restaurant and felt the same mixture of terror and exhilaration I'd felt 2 years ago. Marcus and Tanya had flown out for it, along with Patricia, and half my regular customers who decided to make a vacation out of it. The dining room filled with strangers who'd become something more. The chosen family I'd built from shared meals and genuine support. These were the people who showed up. Who celebrated my success without resentment. Who proved that blood connections meant nothing compared to chosen ones. As service began and the kitchen roared to life, I thought about that empty restaurant on my original opening day. The unopened champagne. The unanswered texts. The crushing realization that I'd been auditioning for love my entire life and still hadn't gotten the part. But I'd been auditioning for the wrong audience. These people, my staff, my regulars, my chosen family, they'd shown up without being asked. They'd celebrated without reservations. They'd proven that the family you build can be stronger than the one you're born into. And standing in that kitchen, calling out orders, watching my team move in perfect synchronization, I realized something profound. I'd spent 5 years saving money to open a restaurant. But I'd spent a lifetime saving myself for people who were never going to value me. The grand opening I dreamed of hadn't happened the way I planned. It had happened better. Because it had been filled with people who chose to be there, who celebrated because they wanted to, not because they felt obligated. The champagne I bought for that first opening had eventually been shared with customers who became friends. The family-sized hole had been filled with something more substantial than blood relation, genuine connection, earned through showing up consistently and without conditions. My phone buzzed. Emma. Sending photos from the original Sage and Times packed dining room. The caption read, "We're holding down the fort. Go kill it." I smiled and got back to work. This was my family now. The one I'd chosen. The one that chose me.